I'll kick off by talking about our behavioural standards. It's really important an organisation like the CFA has behavioural standards as part of a contemporary approach to how we move forward. Behavioural standards really do mimic community standards, and it really demonstrate how we expect our members to behave and what it does mean to be part of the CFA. Reflecting the communities that we serve and holding ourselves to that behavioural standard or community expectations really does set us aside from other organisations and ensures that the CFA remains a great place to volunteer and work. I know our CEO with us this evening really does also support me in applying the behavioural standards and making sure that importantly that you have your say about what they mean for our volunteers and what improvements we may be able to make. They are out for consultation. We are very interested in what you have to say, and we are very keen to get the feedback from our members to understand how we can make them better for you in the long run. So as I said, the behavioural standards is being relaunched. Please take the time to have a look at it. Give us your thoughts and feedback. We are very open to receiving them, because we do want to make sure it's a document that reflects the values of our organisation, the values of the community we represent, and it meets the needs of our members today and into the future. Natalie, as CEO, what does, our behavioural standards mean for someone like yourself?
Thank you, Jason. And can I just apologise for the technical difficulties we've had this evening. It's been a bit of a challenge, and the team, under a lot of pressure, have been trying to work things through. So just want to thank you all for your perseverance and indicate I know how frustrating it's been, but we're pleased that I think you can hear us now. So very pleased that we're at least able to have some interaction. But thank you for your question on the behavioural standards. As you know, we've been hearing a lot from our members about the importance of ensuring that the CFA is a great place to work and volunteer, and that we are setting the standards in relation to the kinds of behaviours that are important for us at the CFA. It's a very important part of establishing the right culture for the organisation, and we're doing a lot of work on that, and you'll hear a little bit more tomorrow about some further work that we'll be doing. But encourage everybody to engage with the information that we've circulated in this regard, and provide your feedback and let us know what you think. And as I said, you'll hear a little bit more tomorrow as well about some further steps that we're taking.
With that, I am going to now throw to you, Anthony, as the General Manager of Infrastructure Services. We're here tonight live from the State Logistics Centre here in Scoresby. It's a fantastic facility, quite a large facility. We've got the prototype pumper tanker here behind us with our heavy tanker and our ultralight. Some of the great achievements that you and your team have put together, and Danny and his team. What can you tell us about, some of the advances in some of the fleet technology that we're going to see over the next couple of months and years?
Thanks, Jason. So the two vehicles that are sitting behind us are almost all new vehicles. So the reality is a lot of the technology that is sitting in these is brand new in these vehicles. We've had the heavy tankers rolling out now for the last few years. We've got another 47 of these coming out in this year. And these are all replacements for our ageing heavy tanker fleet, which is out there. So our investments in the last few years have had to centre around that heavy tanker fleet. We still have over 200 pumpers in our fleet, but the vast majority of our vehicles that we still utilise on a day-to-day basis in CFA are our tanker fleet. And we have a large number of them, and our biggest challenge is, of course, keeping them as up to date as we can, and getting as much rolled out as we possibly can. The new pumper tanker behind me is an all-new vehicle. It's been built in conjunction with our volunteers, with VFBV, and with our experts, our operational experts. We've had working groups working on this particular prototype for some time, and this vehicle's on its way to Hoppers Crossing, which is exactly the type of environment that this sort of vehicle will be used in a very peri-urban environment that has still an urban risk, but still has significant risk from a grassland perspective and from a rural firefighting perspective as well.
That's great, Anthony. If technology was working for us tonight, we would have cut to 2 short videos, obviously demonstrating the ultralight, what it means for the ultralight, some of its capabilities, but also our FCVs,
Yep.
and some of the technology and some of the works that have been put there. Can you talk us through, I guess, what are some of the enhancement that we've done in the FCV space, and what our members can expect to see as we get more and more of these out amongst the field?
Yeah, so what we're focusing on with the FCVs is trying to move to a very standard design. So we have a very capable vehicle in the platform, in the cab chassis platform we use, which is the Ford Ranger. And we've worked with again with our regions and districts and our volunteers to come up with a back that incorporates all of the key things that we need in one of those vehicles. So the back stores all the equipment needed to lead a strike team, to operate on it from a forward command perspective. Including the introduction now of all the radio equipment that we need and the places that you're going to actually use it. So in the back of the cab, as well as in the back of the tray, as well as in the cab. We have some fridges in there. We have a fridge in there. We have a lot of the day-to-day equipment you need to brief the strike team to work through those sorts of activities. There's massive advantages to the organisation in moving to more standardised vehicles. We learn from every vehicle we build, and we are able to then take those learnings into the next iteration of any vehicle as we go along.
Thanks, Anthony. And I think I'm keeping an eye on the chat, everyone, to try and see when those questions pop in. I know it's been a bit trying this evening, and please bear with us and still feel free to put those questions through. Everyone's just still focusing on some of the technical stuff in the chat at the moment. But Anthony, I want to ask you the hard questions. I know some of the questions I've been getting as chief as I've been doing the rounds is, when are we going to see the next run of pumpers? What's your thought to the new, the pumper build, and when we might see more of the medium pumpers coming off the production line? Yeah,
absolutely. So as I said a little earlier, just by virtue of our need to replace our over $800 million worth of vehicles in as timely a fashion as we can, there's obviously not as quickly as people would like us to, but there are some limitations around that. The medium pumper was a very successful vehicle. I think we rolled out the last one of those around 2018. Dan, you can either nod, I think. And the reality is that we've just begun a process to refresh that design. So we are starting up with a working group that will work through that design. We'll actually go and consult with industry. We'll go and consult with other fire services as well, and work out what the best design for that pump is moving forward. So we'll do that over the course of the next 12 months or so, and then we'll be in a position to start to go back out to market and get contracts in place for the body, for the pump, for the cab chassis, all those components that we use. And in fact, with the next builds of these, we're actually going to try something new. We're going to move to what we're doing now with our ultra heavy tankers and with a couple of others. Is we're going to move to a more turnkey solution. Previously, we've had bodybuilders put all the components together, and CFA's been responsible for those. We're actually going to move to a more turnkey solution, which we hope to give us a few more economies of scale, which might allow us to put a few more pumpers out on the road that we need to. While we're doing that, though, we've at the end of last year we were able to secure a number of Mercedes-Benz cab chassis. We're going to utilise those to do a refurbishment on a number of our 20-plus-year-old pumpers. They're colloquially referred to as the New South Wales back pumpers, and we have a number of those across the organisation that Fire Rescue New South Wales have done a great job in setting up some contracts to do a refurbishment of those pumpers. Basically everything from the cab chassis, basically the back is all that stays, everything else is renewed. It enables us to replace, 3 of those for the price of 2 brand new pumpers, and that will give us the ability to be able to refresh a number of those. They've been very successful in New South Wales, and we're hoping to replicate that success down here.
That's fantastic, Anthony. One of the things, so I am, some of the questions coming through, and as you can imagine, whenever you start talking, tanks, bombs, and airplanes, trucks and PPE and equipment, you always get the questions flowing. One of the ones here is about pumping pits. And I know you and I have had a discussion previously about pumping pits. There was a time there where there was some concern around. Can you give us a bit of an update of where we might be at with the pumping pits and some of the considerations around them?
Yeah, so the pumping pits are a bit of a quandary for us. We have a very much an obligation to keep our people safe, and where we have static bodies of water that are utilised only infrequently, it's difficult for us to do that. So we've recently started a little bit of work in my environmental services team to have a look at those. It's been work that's been bouncing around if we're speaking the truth here, it's been bouncing around the organisation a little bit with no one being able to make a decision. So we're taking that mantle in our teeth. We'll have a look at it and we'll work out the best way to be able to meet the training need. That might be a pumping pit, that might not be a pumping pit, but what we need to do is be able to meet the training need that comes, that we're able to meet at the moment with those pits, and identify whether or not we can safely have those at our fire stations, at our DMO workshops. A lot of our workshops have pumping pits as well. And there is it's still very much an open question for us. So I'd love to be able to say, Jason, I have an answer for you on that one, but unfortunately it's one of those wicked problems that we need to work through.
Thanks, Anthony. And I think it would be remiss of me if I didn't point out, and some of the people have pointed out in their questions this evening, behind you, we have the mannequin with the CFA workwear. Can you give us a bit of an update on when we can expect to see some of the workwear? That's a Dan question.
It is a Dan question, yes. Yes.
Thank you, and great hand pass there. That's a Carlton hand pass, that one, Anthony. Thank you for that, and good evening, everyone. So yeah, thanks for the question about workwear. So I'm not sure whether you can see on screen, but behind us there are two mannequins, one female, one male, that are sporting the new workwear. So a bit of a status update on the project itself. So we've now entered into contracts for the supply of workwear. So we have an initial rollout of workwear, which initially was funded for 9,500 volunteers. Through some competitive tendering and also some additional funding, we're pleased to advise or announce now that we can actually extend that out to around 30,000 volunteers. So a really good story there. So as I said, we've let contracts for that. We've raised orders where the suppliers have commenced manufacture. Unfortunately, as with many industries, there's some impacts of COVID to the supply of raw materials and fabrics into Australia, so that is affecting the delivery times. But we're actually shortly going to start seeing some of those items flow into the SLC, where they'll be packed and then sent out. So there's a little bit of work to be done before they actually start delivery, but we're really looking forward to start getting some of that out in the near future. So what I might do, if I could, is just spend a couple of moments just talking about the workwear itself. So as I said, there's a couple of mannequins behind me. So some of the key elements of that are that the base colour of the workwear is Patriot Blue. That's actually a new fresh look for CFA. Again, as you can see behind me, so really good outcome there. The shoulder patch, we've moved to a woven shoulder patch, which actually has coloured design in it. Again, that's a new look for CFA, and there'll be one shoulder patch for all. So whether you're a volunteer or a paid member, it'll all be the same patch. The headwear, the epaulettes, the shoulder patch will remain in night sky. Reason behind that is to fit in with the current uniform items, but also to give a bit of a contrast to the Patriot Blue, which is a really good look. So I think, Jason, that's it on workwear. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny, but you're not out of the hot seat yet, my friend, because there's a couple of questions there around BA cylinders. So obviously fleet and protective equipment. What are we doing in terms of the BA space, and I guess some of the thinking and movement towards a swap and go type system, and what are some of the advancements that we're looking at there?
Yeah, so organisationally we're looking at, what's our BA strategy for the future. How do we manage and how do we ease that burden on brigades to manage BA? And certainly one of the key themes at the moment that's often talked about is more of a swap and go type arrangement. So we're looking into that, and as a bit of a proof of concept, we're actually building a couple of light BA support vehicles at the moment. So they're based on a four-wheel drive Ranger with a purpose-built body, ability to carry a cache of cylinders, so 20 cylinders plus some washing facility in that. So really that can, again, as a proof of concept, that can go forward to a job and provide a little bit of a staging area for BA. So just looking at building our capability in BA that way. There's also the advancement in the BA brigade. So introducing some new sets to take up that gap with BA capability.
Okay. Thanks, Danny. And you've got the microphone, mate. As I said, it's an infrastructure evening, and the questions are coming in thick and fast. So whilst I've just stolen Anthony's lapel mic, hopefully everyone can continue to hear the grilling. Ultralight tankers. We had a bit of an issue there previously where a particular ultralight was overweight on one of the axles over the OEM specifications. You just want to talk us through, I guess, what the issue was, what the interim solution was, and what's the more permanent solution to resolve that issue?
Sure, yeah. So yes, we had a number of ultralights that were found to be slightly overweight on the rear axle. So they were within the total GVM, so they weren't overweight as far as total GVM goes. But I guess what you've got to understand is there's really two key elements to weight. There's total GVM and then there's axle limits. So each axle has a limit. And what we found with the disbursement of weight on this run of ultralights is they're a little bit over the rear axle allowable limit. To overcome that, we've either got to take weight off or move weight forward so that more weight goes on the front axle. So our interim solution for those 40 ultralights was just to remove some water while we work through some solutions. And the solutions we've come up with now is one. So the options are one, remove the tow bar and do some minor adjustments to some stowage. So move the hydrant, remove the hydrant locker, and move the foam container. The other option is actually to just maintain a reduction in water capacity, which gets that weight off the rear axle. So they're the two solutions that we've come up with. Look, we looked at a lot of different options. The vehicles already have a GVM upgrade, and unfortunately there wasn't a further upgrade we could do to reinstate full water and retain the tow bar.
Thanks, Danny. And whilst you, as I said, you've got the microphone here tonight. I have one here from Stephen, and he sort of asked this evening: is there any plan to roll out general purpose gloves that are more fit for purpose than operating a pump, restowing a hose, etc.? The structural gloves just seem to be a little bit too cumbersome. Is there any sort of movement or thought around what gloves we have and where we might be moving to in the future?
I'm not sure if Anthony might have an answer to that, but.
Yeah, so we've had a bit of feedback, or considerable feedback, on the gloves. The gloves themselves are to a standard, and often the trade-off for the protection that they bring with the different elements of the gloves do come with some elements of them being a little more cumbersome than the gloves that we had previously, which didn't offer anywhere near the same level of protection. The arrangement we have with our gloves is actually coming due in the next couple of years. So what we intend to do, as we do with all of our gear, is we will have a look at how the gear has performed, how it is needed to perform into the future, what the relevant standards are now, and we'll have a look at potentially. Potentially looking at gloves that are a little different. I think for as much feedback as we get that they're cumbersome, I think we have quite a number of people who are very grateful. Coming across a bit of tin in a structure fire or something like that they actually do have the level of protection that those gloves do offer. So we'll definitely take all the feedback on board when we come time to look at a replacement for those gloves.
Thanks, Anthony. And again, you hold the microphone because the next one's to you.
Well, I think you can go back to Dan.
I don't know.
No?
So let's talk things all helmets and next gen PPC. So obviously we rolled out the structural helmet, the F-15 Pacific. How did that go, and what's the future for the F-15s?
Yeah, so the rollout, like everything else we've tried to do over the last 18 months, was impacted by COVID, unfortunately. We did have a period of time where we had to stop the rollout because we were doing face-to-face training on these helmets, because they are significantly different from the F3s that they replaced. So the F15s are now our structural helmet, and we have some stock of the F3s left, which we'll get through, and then post that, the reality is that we will only be issuing F15s into the future. We won't be doing another program, another rollout. We don't have, we just don't have the funds to do that. However, we will be issuing these as the structural helmet
what
going
about
forward.
stowage, like keeping them in the tanker? Different tanker, a different helmet, obviously.
Yep.
Yeah. How are we looking to stow these things?
So we have stowage solutions for all of our appliances now, and people will have noticed that as their trucks have been going through over the last month or a couple of months, that they'll be coming back with bag stowage instead of some of the brackets that we had previously. So helmet stowage is a problem for us. These are a significantly larger helmet than we've had before, and the real estate available in our cabins is less and less every year with everything else we try to cram into it. So one of the challenges we've set our engineers is that we would like them to look at ways to stow helmets. That doesn't necessarily mean they have to sit in the cabin. There is probably no enormous reason that they need to take priority for cabin space. Where possible, yes, that's ideal, but we need to look at other options for storing our helmets going forward. If you have a crew of 4 or 5, that's a lot of helmet we're putting into a cabin.
Most certainly is. So I guess moving on from our head down to the rest of the body now, the wildfire PPC next generation.
Yep.
When can we start to see that coming into being?
Yeah, so we're out to tender now for the next gen wildfire PPC. For those that aren't aware, we received in the last state budget $10.8 million to issue around 24,000 or thereabouts sets. That number will be determined. We found with the workwear tenders we got significantly better commercial value than we had anticipated, largely because of the volumes in which we purchase things. We are hoping that we will get some significantly increased volumes on that as well. So we're out to tender at the moment. We are still very hopeful, material supply willing, to be able to start to issue some of this gear probably towards the end of this season. I think would be our best case scenario.
Thanks, Anthony. And look, the boys just can't be hogging the live stream this evening. We do have our CEO with us. So, Natalie, the heat's now on you. I know you and I have been travelling the state, talking to brigades, and hearing, I guess, what matters most to our members. And what comes up time and time again, obviously, is age of fleet. And some of the issues that we have around age of fleet, and many brigades out there have older trucks, and some of them even have trucks upwards of the late 20 to even early 30 years. Can you talk us through, I guess, as CEO, what do you see as CFA's strategy to working with government to try and get more funds to get a tanker renewal program or appliance renewal program over the next couple of years?
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. Jason. I had Anthony in mind because Anthony and I have talked about this. What we're keen to do is develop a full picture, and I know there's already been quite a lot of work done by Anthony and his team, but of a sort of a comprehensive program that we can put to government that outlines year by year when our trucks and appliances will reach the end of their useful lives. And we've actually got to do that to kind of start to mount the 10 to 15 year strategy rather than the current process which we're sort of locked into, which is the government process, which is a year by year bid. So we do our best, and we're at the moment right in the middle of writing bids to government to get additional funding, but we've actually got to make it a longer term picture. And we're currently working with Deloitte, who've been appointed by the government to look at financial sustainability for the CFA, and this will be one of the things that we're discussing with them. And in fact, I had a meeting with them today, and I know Anthony and Jason met with them yesterday to talk about the importance of a sustainable funding model, not just for our appliances, but also for our station replacements and creation. But this is a long-term game. We're not going to solve this overnight, and we have to solve this with facts and data, and that's what we've got to pull together to identify the long-term program.
Big reform agenda obviously going on across government at the moment. As you touched on, the financial sustainability piece. There's a lot of work been going on across EMV around operating models and how agencies continue to collaborate and work as one in the sector. As CEO and what you've seen so far, it's nearly, I guess it's nearly a year, or nearly a year for me, which means it's not too far then to be a year after for yourself. What are some of the biggest challenges you see for the CFA in the time that you've been, and I guess how we can position ourselves to grow and be that better, bigger organisation?
Yeah, well, we've got to do it with facts and data. So we've got to really build arguments that are rock solid, and sort of not based on emotion. Emotion can help sometimes, but facts and data are far more persuasive from a Treasury point of view, and we have to continue to build those stronger relationships with central agencies, with EMV. And build the case, and it is a high priority from my point of view, and something that I'm very focused on, so that we can put our best foot forward as an agency to explain why investment in the CFA nets a significant return for the community. We know it, but we've got a job to do to make that really clear, and that's something that, as you know, you and I are both quite focused on, and we're making some inroads, but again, it's a long game, and we have to be consistent, and the narrative and the story has to be consistent.
Absolutely, and I think in the vein that we are, Natalie, and whilst you have the microphone, I'm going to go to that big elephant in the corner of the room. And as our members know, and there's been some comments in there, that we've recently seen a TV advertising campaign commence and a newsprint campaign commenced that's been put forward by the United Firefighters Union. Look, there's no attack obviously on volunteers. There's no mention of the CFA. They're just highlighting the services that the career firefighters offer to the state through FRV, and as you know, I'm a big fan of you don't need to get a paycheck to be professional. I guess that many of our members will be asking us, what are we doing about that, and how are some of the things that we're doing to highlight the good work that CFA does and what it means for our members in response to what we're seeing in the media at the moment.
Yeah, I guess from our point of view, as you say, the campaign is based on fact, but by implication, sort of suggesting and allowing sort of people to put in an address and then seek to be covered by an FRV zone is not the process that the government has designed. The government has designed an independent fire district review panel, and we're working with that panel, as are EMV and FRV and others. But to imply that our volunteers are not professional was something personally disappointing for myself, and I know for you, Jason, and we've had a lot of feedback, and I think some people have used the words anger, etc. in the chat, and we understand how disappointing it is for our members to see that kind of implication being made. You will have all seen our statement, I hope. We've made that public. It's on the website. We've released statements and expressed our views to our colleagues in FRV at all levels in the organisation. It's not an FRV campaign, it's a UFU campaign. We are also intending to ramp up as much as we can our presence on social media, and in particular the diversity of the responses and the work that the CFA does. So this is really important, that we get the message out that the CFA is active and provides a professional service in all of the communities that it services. So we're very keen to get stories, photos, and smash out the stories about what the CFA does for its communities, and it's absolutely critical that we do that and keep that presence very high to remind people that the CFA is absolutely 100% professional. There is no question about that. It is absolutely incorrect to imply otherwise.
Absolutely. The CFA has a solid brand in the community. There's a lot of trust in the CFA in the community, and the community knows who we are and what we're about and the services that we provide. And I know many people across FRB, including our own secondees, have actually commented on how disappointed they were to see this ad campaign, and that they obviously felt that the implications or the things that were implied throughout that campaign was a slight on our volunteers, and was not truthful. We are professional, we are very dedicated, and we provide a lot to the community. So we've put the statement out. If anyone hasn't seen our statement, it is on the CFA website under the news and media, so it goes there. Likewise, I tweeted a little something the other day. We will continue to advocate for our volunteers and for our staff and our secondees and the great work that they do in our communities, and to make sure that that trust that is there continues to be. So I couldn't let tonight go without talking about the elephant in the room. It is quite important to everyone. We are very taking it very seriously and working that through. So thanks for touching on that, Natalie. Dan, I think it's time we get back into infrastructure and all things like that. BA spectacle kits on the list, a lot of discussion around that. Do we know when we might see more of the BA spectacle kits being distributed and fitting people out for them?
Yeah, thanks. So the good news is, I guess, that we've now got the components for spectacle kits that go in BA masks. So districts have started to receive the BA fitting mask, which is a mask that's specially designed to take to an optometrist to have prescription lenses fitted, to then issue a set of spectacles. The actual procedure and the contracts around that are almost finalised. And we're hoping to be able to release those in the next few weeks out to districts, so that they can then reach out to volunteers that wear prescription lenses, and start to see some of those come in for BA wearers.
Excellent, thanks. A couple of questions ago, there's a lot of questions are flying in thick and fast, as you can expect. Some discussion about what, obviously, because the camera's over there and the mannequin's sitting there, and the question's been asked, what's the logo on the left-hand side of the jacket there?
Yeah, great question, thanks. So yeah, with the new workwear, we've gone for some new branding. So we've got the Victorian emblem, which is on the left as we look, followed by the words CFA Victoria, and then a small band of red and white checkers, which is synonymous for CFA. So that branding is on the left-hand front chest pocket chest of the jacket, and all of the shirts, and also on the cargo trouser front flap, which you won't see. But there, and also on the hip of the plain trouser. So we're going to see that. On the back of the jacket, again you can't see, but there's the red and white synonymous checker with CFA Victoria in the centre on the back of the jacket. So yeah, state emblem, CFA Victoria, and then our red and white checker.
Certainly will set CF up to be uniquely identifiable in the community, and certainly will go a long way to obviously redefining the CFA as the new organisation, but yet a very traditional and older organisation, over 100 years today and into the future. Yeah. Anthony?
Sorry, Joe. And one of the key elements for the workwear was to actually get that fresh new look for CFA, to be independent looking in the community, so people recognise who the CFA is.
Absolutely, along with the iconic traditional yellows that mean so much to our members in the community as well. Thanks, Danny. Anthony, I noticed you've been sitting on the edge there.
I might just add the detail. The detail around this is actually on the member portal, so people want to go in and have a look. All of the designs for each of the garments, the caps, the belts, all that sort of stuff is sitting within the member portal.
So a question asked around station design, station facilities, the 2A versus 2B,
Yep.
To be or not to be. I guess that may be the question. What are some of the things that land and building go through to determine whether a brigade gets, 1 bay, 2 bay, 3 bays, turnout, meeting rooms versus, all the other bits and pieces? Because I guess, as the person's pointed out in the question here, perhaps there's some inconsistencies. Can you talk us through, I guess, how does your department walk through that with the brigades and with the districts in the region?
Yeah, so it is predominantly done with the districts and the regions, who are our conduit into our brigades. The reality is that there are a set of standards for our stations. We've historically had a range of 1 type stations, which are more rural, and a range of 2 type stations, which are more urban, as well as a 1C station, which is somewhere in the middle these days. And the reality is that that those designs are probably at a time where we need to be having a look at them. So there is a large number of 1 type stations. What we really should probably have is a rural type station, an urban type station, a peri-urban type station, and the reality is we need to have those clear and consistent rules around. If you have 3 appliances, you get 3 bays. I'm talking about primary appliances here. I'm talking about appliances that need to be out the door in 4 minutes. If you have a BA risk or an urban risk and you are a BA brigade, then you have those facilities. If you the size of brigade facilities, the size of multi-purpose rooms, the size of all those sorts of things should be determined by the needs of the brigade, the needs of the districts, the activities and the size of the brigades. That is all done now, but it's not as formal as I would like it to be, and we do need to change that. There is a fair amount of influence, a fair amount of well, the shed next door got this, so why can't I have it? And the reality is that there are a lot of there's been a lot of activity in the past, which you would probably say you'd struggle to say is supported by need, and as we enter a time where our where we are far more conscious about our assets. We've got over $1.2 billion worth of fire stations out there. We get, on average, around $5 million a year to replace them. So the reality for us is that everything we spend on Station A, can't be spent on Station B. So along with our appliances, that is our challenge into the future.
And certainly highlights the financial sustainability piece that Natalie touched on before.
Yeah, absolutely. That we get absolutely. That together. I need to be fair. We do actually get top-up funding as well from time to time. For instance, in the last round of the CFA capability funding, we got around $21 million to replace a further 16 stations around the state. But like our appliances, that's not consistent, and that becomes our issue. It's difficult to plan, it's difficult to understand and get fulfill our obligations under our asset management framework and get that stuff in place.
So I guess talking all things stations, there's a little elephant in the room tonight.
Oh.
Tenancy agreement. What's going on?
So the tenancy agreement was signed by the CFA on the 30th of April. We'd reached we'd reached an agreement on that, and we were in the position where CFA was able to sign our counterpart of that. We are at the moment still waiting on Fire Rescue Victoria to sign that. We understand that there are some further changes that FRV will be seeking from us. We've been doing a bit of work with them to try to understand what those are, but at this time we still don't know exactly what those changes are. And we will need to go back, and we want to go back to our co-located brigades and have that conversation with them if there are going to be further changes. So at this point in time, we're not on the cusp of signing it. I'd love to be able to say that we were, because that will give us the certainty that we need to be able to then go about making whatever changes we need to make. But the reality is that we're still waiting at the moment for some formal responses from Fire Rescue Victoria to be able to determine what changes they would like to make to that agreement.
So I guess we've been talking a lot about where we've been, some of the stuff we're working on now. What's new? What's coming?
Yeah, so, well, there's still an awful lot of stuff coming. So, this year, for instance, to roll off a couple of stats, where Dan's team's producing 193 vehicles this year. That's a significant number of vehicles. They will roll out. George's team, the Land and Buildings team, is building 25 new fire stations this year. They're doing modifications to 40 or more. There's a number of programs running around refurbishment. There's a lot of new doors, new carpets, new blinds, new lighting going into a lot of fire stations, and that's all part of the government's COVID package, which is helping us as well. And really, you know, what I can see our challenges are, and what's going to be new is taking up the mantle around what Natalie described. So we need to have those evidence-based conversations with government. We need to be able to work through those. We need to be able to secure, you know, some better funding for our over $2 billion worth of assets that we have and we rely on every day. And you know, the challenge is there for us to be able to do that and support, you know, our now fully volunteer organisation.
So I think, Anthony, we're doing a lot organisationally, and Natalie, you might feel free to jump in here as well, but to be perfectly frank, it's about time the men faced up to this issue, and that's around diversity and gender diversity and things that we need to improve in the CFA to deal with these things. And you've just, you know, been talking about land, buildings and stations, Anthony. What are we doing about gender diversity and making our stations more inclusive and welcoming for our female members?
Yeah, so we're in the process at the moment of a bid to government that has a diversity and inclusion theme. In fact, Danny and I and Georgia were out at Sale Fire Station today having a chat with the brigade out there around some work we can do to support gender diversity in that brigade. So that brigade itself is kicking some pretty big goals around gender diversity, and you know, as an organisation, we'd like to, you know, we need to support that. So we're out there today having some conversations. So as we see things and as we see opportunities, we are looking to implement facilities that better support not only gender diversity but all sorts of diversity and all sorts of inclusion. And you know, when we build a new fire station, we are introducing all of these elements, but we still have an awful lot of old fire stations out there. We still have an awful lot of facilities out there that still need to be included in any kind of you know, diversity and inclusion package. And you know, we are trying to do our best to get the funding that we need to be able to support that into the future.
Thanks, Anthony, and certainly Natalie, yourself, and myself committed to obviously you know, diversity initiatives. And one of the two things that we did obviously was the formation of the Women's Advisory Committee and the Youth Advisory Committee. We've had 2 meetings now. What's your reflection on some of the lessons, well, some of the learnings from speaking to those groups?
Thanks, Jason. They've been great. We're meeting every 6 weeks. We've got 2 reps from every district in those advisory committees, and they are raising with us lots of systemic issues, and some of the issues that you've raised here in the chat around you know, facilities and the challenges of facilities, and even just the capacity to attract, in the case of turnout rooms or even a toilet, in some cases for females. It's a big issue, and we need to tackle it. And as Anthony says, we're kind of ramping up the pressure to the degree appropriate, also within government. I mean, we are, as an organisation, one of the more progressive emergency services organisations, but we've got a huge set of issues that we need to deal with to ensure that we are thinking about diversity and making sure that we've got facilities, equipment, PPE. One of the issues that's been raised with us in the women's group is that the advisory group is that we don't have gloves small enough for some females, and that's a safety issue. So how do we deal with that? That means we've got to work with manufacturers, etc., to try and deal with some of those issues. But it's a serious issue, and we need to all be looking at what we can do to ensure that we've got opportunity and safety for our members, whoever they are, who want to be part of the CFA volunteer community.
Thanks, Natalie, and Dan, you've sort of been sitting in the end there, a little quiet for a little while. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Anthony, actually. So, as the head of, you know, fleet and protective equipment, what's new? What's on the horizon? What's coming in your neck of the woods?
Thanks, Jason. So I guess we've already touched on, that we're re-engaging around a pumper build, which we haven't done for some time. So that work, has just only freshly begun. So that'll be, some new steps to go towards that type of appliance. We've already spoken about the workwear, and classic example here of, now our preparedness to look at, complete gender apparel. Our mannequin to the left here is a female, so we're offering shirts or complete clothing in female forms, a blouse as well as a shirt. Certainly any time we go to tender now for clothing or PPE, as part of our specification, we're including, a requirement for sizing and forms for females. Just to introduce that. So, a lot of work, and I guess what the next step for us is with vehicle design is to make sure we get a good cross-section of representatives on working parties. Traditionally it's just been, a small group of, of males talking about trucks, but we certainly want to expand that out now to make sure we're getting good representatives from, from all types.
Thanks, Danny. I might go a different tangent, but still in your neck of the woods. Anthony just took us through, I guess, the next-gen wildfire PPC, what we can expect there, and some of the advancements and rollouts. But a little birdie tells me something's happening in the structural space as well. Can you elaborate there?
So we'll need to look at going to market at some stage fairly soon for structural PPC as well. So again, we'll go through that process of engaging with, with our users, with some representative groups, come up with some functional requirements for structural PPC and then go to market. So yeah, absolutely. We'll be looking to do that next year to go to market for some new structural PPC as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Danny. Look, it's been an interesting night. Again, big shout out to the team behind the camera who have stopped sweating now. They've got some audio and video up and running. They've done a fantastic job to get us where we have tonight. Started out with far in excess of 400 people, 350 people hung in there and managed to watch this evening. So we do apologise for the technical issues that we did have the earlier in this evening. We are trying this new platform. We do want it to be live. We do want it to be interactive. But certainly my hat off to the team to get us where we are. Thank you very much. We're going to do these monthly. It is a monthly thing, and here's a little challenge for the team. Tonight we've come from broadcast here live tonight from Scoresby. The next challenge will be Balan. Why Balan? Because we're going to come from the Central Highlands Training Centre. I saw the questions come in this evening about training. I didn't ignore you, but the next session will all be about training. We'll have a panel of experts in, and you can apply a blowtorch to the training team and ask them all those hot questions that you want to ask about training. In addition to, we'll have some announcements around the AFAC peer review, what some of the outcomes of that are and what some of the things that you can expect to see coming from there. So I'd like to shout out a big thank you to Anthony, Natalie and Danny for coming along this evening. I have noticed the temperature in your warehouse, Dan, has dropped significantly to the point where my fingers are blue. So, but thank you for joining us tonight. And to the panel, it's been great. I think it's been great. I hope our members have got a lot out of it. These things are designed to be engaging. We want an opportunity and a platform for you to be able to ask the questions you've always wanted to ask and get the information that's important to you. So please provide us with feedback. I am very keen, as I know we all are very keen, to understand what topics you would like to have presented as the months go on, and we'll continue to deliver some of the latest in technology, latest of improvements across the CFA. So thank you very much for joining this evening, and have a great night.